My ex-wife cheated, left, and begged to come back years later. I stayed silent until she commented under my new girlfriend's viral video. Why did next? It wasn't petty. It was earned. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The night it all began wasn't stormy or dramatic. It was a clear Los Angeles evening, sky dull with city haze, the kind that feels too quiet. Michael Carter had just returned home from a late shift at the agency where he worked as a creative director. Long hours, burnt coffee, and back pain from his aging ergonomic chair. Everything about his life screamed stability, predictability. Married to Allison for 7 years. No kids. Just a home, 2 dogs, Ranger and Miles, and a shared Netflix account. Until that night, he walked into the house and sensed it. Something off. Not a burglary. Something heavier. The kind of silence that feels like it's trying to warn you. Allison was sitting on the edge of the bed, her hands folded like she was about to deliver a eulogy. Her mascara was smudged, but not from crying. No, she had cried earlier. This was the after, when guilt runs out of tears. I slept with someone, she whispered, voice barely audible. Michael just stared. No reaction. Not yet. His brain refused to process. Who? He finally asked, his voice hollow. Ethan, she replied. Ethan. A name that cracked through his spine like ice water. Ethan was his friend, his college roommate, best man at their wedding. Michael didn't shout. He didn't cry. Instead, he walked out, drove for 2 hours, ate a cold cheeseburger in a diner he couldn't name, and came back home to sleep on the couch. It wasn't noble. It was shock in slow motion. The next morning, she tried to talk. He said nothing. By that evening, he had packed a small suitcase, took the dogs, and left. They divorced within 6 months. The betrayal was public. Ethan vanished from his social circle. Michael's family stopped inviting Allison to holiday dinners. Her sisters texted him apologies. None of it mattered. He was a ghost with a credit score, moving through life on autopilot. But the silence didn't last. It was replaced by whispers, rumors. Turns out, Ethan wasn't the only one. A year later, Michael discovered that Allison had been unfaithful multiple times. Friends, co-workers, even a neighbor. She called it a phase. Her friends called it finding herself. Michael called it the end. He buried the pain in workouts, boxing, and therapy. He stopped drinking, cut sugar, adopted a strict diet, and hit the gym like it owed him money. His revenge body became a legend among his circle. Lean, strong, confident. But his healing wasn't just physical. It was strategic. He rebuilt. Slowly. He started freelancing, created a design firm from scratch, worked with small clients at first, then bigger names. Eventually, a viral ad campaign landed him on Forbes' Creators to Watch list. Allison had mocked his dreams once. Now he lived them. Still, he felt no peace. Closure wasn't healing. It was accountability, and she never gave it. But life had one more twist. 3 years after the divorce, Allison texted him out of nowhere. Hey, can we talk? Michael stared at the message, thumb hovering. Then he replied with one word. Why? She replied in less than a minute. It's not what you think. Michael almost laughed. After everything, this was her opener. He tossed his phone onto the kitchen counter like it might infect him. But curiosity is claws. That night, after a silent dinner and a walk with Ranger and Miles through the moonlit neighborhood, he picked it up again. Her next message sat there, blinking. I made mistakes. I know that now. But can we just meet once? For closure. Closure. That word again. Like it was something you could hand over on a napkin. Michael didn't respond. Not for a week. But then one Thursday night, after too much coffee and a brief stalk through her social media, photos of her looking tired, older, her smile never quite reaching her eyes, he replied. Saturday, 2 p.m., the park near Melrose. He arrived early, like always, watching the fountain, watching couples walk by. Then he saw her. Allison walked slowly. Same eyes, but everything else looked dimmed. Time had eroded her glow, but not in a cruel way. Just honest. She wore a long beige coat, hair pulled back, her expression rehearsed and fragile. Hi, Mike, she said. He nodded. You wanted closure. So talk. She blinked. I don't know where to start. Try the truth, he said flatly. She winced. Then she told him about Ethan, how he had left her. that he had been cheating on her for over a year with a much younger woman. She's 24, she said with a bitter laugh. She calls him daddy. Literally. Michael didn't flinch. She went on about the loneliness. How her friends drifted away. How even her own family had stopped defending her. How no one stayed after the parties ended. I thought you'd hate me forever, she said. But I kept seeing your name. Everywhere. Your company. The ads. The awards. You look good, Mike. You always had that quiet charm. But now, he looked away. You didn't come here to compliment me. Get to the point. She nodded, tears brimming. I was wrong. About everything. I sabotaged what we had because I didn't believe I deserved it. You were stable. Safe. But I was addicted to chaos. I wanted excitement, attention. I mistook that for love. Michael's jaw clenched. So you lit a marriage on fire because you wanted to feel something? I wanted to feel wanted, she whispered. There it was. The honesty. The ugly core. She reached in her purse and pulled out a worn envelope. Inside, photos. Old ones. Them on the beach. At the lake. Laughing in New Orleans. I still look at these, she said. I dream about us sometimes. The real us. Before I ruined it. He studied the photos, then handed them back. You didn't just ruin it. You destroyed it. You chose lies. Repeatedly. And now you want closure. I want redemption, she said quietly. I want to be seen again by you. Michael shook his head. You don't get to ask for that. Not after what you did. She leaned in, desperate. I know I'm too late. I know that. But I'd give anything to undo it. Anything. There was a silence between them so thick it smothered the breeze. Then Michael smiled. But it wasn't kind. It was calculated. Anything. She froze. Yes. I'd. He stood. Good. Because I'm going to give you what you gave me. Something unforgettable. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? Michael put on his sunglasses. Wait and see. He walked away. Left her sitting there, clutching old memories. And that was the moment his real revenge began. Not the petty kind, but the kind that leaves scars. Michael's footsteps echoed as he left the park. Calm, steady, surgical. But inside, his heart beat like war drums. For years, he'd carried the betrayal like a stone lodged deep in his chest. Now, it wasn't enough to heal. He needed her to understand the weight of what she did. Not through words or apologies, but through a reality she couldn't escape. And he already knew exactly where to begin. That night, Michael opened the old Dropbox folder labeled Us. Not for nostalgia. For intel. Photos, texts, her patterns, her triggers. He scanned through screenshots he'd saved, messages she once sent him, gaslighting him, denying what he later found out was true. He read them all with clinical detachment. Then, he opened a new file on his desktop. Title: The Restoration Project. This wasn't about hurting her. It was about restoring the version of himself she tried to break. And if he could shake her in the process, then so be it. He reached out to one person he had not spoken to in 4 years, Claire Reynolds, a former coworker and one of the very few people who had warned him about Allison before it all went south. She was the quiet observer back then. Now, she was a senior strategist at a rising PR firm. He messaged, Claire, need 15 minutes. In person. You'll want to hear this. She replied in 5. Name a place. They met the next morning at a minimalist cafe downtown. Claire walked in, confident as ever, her blazer sharper than his own. You look dangerous, she said, smirking. I like it. He nodded once. I want your help. I figured. This is about her, right? He laid it all out. Everything. How Allison reached out. How she cried. How she begged. And how, this time, he wasn't just walking away. Claire leaned back, thoughtful. You don't want to embarrass her. You want to expose the gap between the fantasy she sold and the life she destroyed. Michael nodded. Exactly. I want to dismantle her illusion. Slowly. Publicly. Without ever touching her. Claire tapped her pen on her lip. Then we start with visibility. By the end of the meeting, a plan had been drafted. Phase 1. Rebrand. Michael's personal profile got a makeover. Not fake, just finely polished. Claire's team updated his online presence. New photos, updated bios, press releases highlighting his recent successes. Old colleagues reshared his work. Every move calculated, professional. It wasn't revenge. It was spotlighting what she threw away. Phase 2. The event. Claire invited him to speak at a creative tech summit in the city, a panel she was moderating. But it wasn't just any summit. Allison's firm was sponsoring one of the booths. Michael walked into that conference like he owned the air around him. Custom-tailored suit. Clean fade. No ring. No bitterness. Just presence. Confidence. And fate, as always, added drama. Allison was there, standing at her company's table, dressed like she was trying to look younger than she felt, next to a junior exec who looked uncomfortable in his own shoes. Her eyes met Michael's across the room. She froze. He gave a small, polite nod and kept walking. Claire introduced him on stage. Our next speaker is a visionary in branding and emotional recovery through storytelling. Please welcome Michael Carter. The crowd applauded. Allison stood at the back, pale. Michael's keynote wasn't about betrayal. Not directly, but his words were surgical. Sometimes, we're forced to become the version of ourselves someone else was too small to believe in. And when that happens, you don't just move on. You evolve. You build. And eventually, they see you again. But by then, you're not the same. The room clapped. Allison stood still, stunned. Afterwards, she waited by the exit. Michael. But he walked past her. Not angry. Not cruel. Just unreachable. That night, she sent a message. You were incredible. I'm proud of you. He didn't reply. 3 weeks passed. Silence stretched like tension wire between them, and Michael didn't once break it. Allison, however, was spiraling. It started small, likes on his old posts, anonymous comments under his videos. Then came an email. The subject line read, "Please." No message body. Just one word. One final gasp before collapse. But Michael had already moved past her orbit. He didn't need closure anymore. He was executing a lesson. Claire's plan moved into phase 3, reflection. It was time to hold a mirror to Allison's life, without ever touching her directly. He reconnected with Alex and Diane, a couple who had distanced themselves from him after the divorce. They had been neutral once, swayed by Allison's side of the story. But time had chipped away at the lies. When they met for dinner at a rooftop lounge downtown, Diane spoke first. "We should have called you years ago. She told us you were controlling. Emotionally closed. She said you never made her feel desired." Michael smiled gently. "She told me I was too emotional. That I smothered her." Funny how both can be true when they're both lies. Alex leaned in. "We didn't know. About Ethan. Or the others." Diane added. "She told us it was one mistake. Just Ethan. We believed her." Michael nodded. "I don't blame you. I blamed myself for a long time too." That night, he gave them something she couldn't. Honesty. And in doing so, he began reclaiming the truth she had poisoned. Then came phase 4, revelation. Claire released a video docu-short online about the rise and fall of emotional branding in modern relationships. A subtle, sophisticated look at betrayal in professional partnerships. Nothing about Allison directly, but those who knew, they knew. And someone sent it to her. Allison watched it in her apartment, alone. Rain fell against the windows like judgment. Her kids were at her mother's house. Ethan had long since blocked her. And her job? On the rocks. Why? Because her firm had seen the summit video, and Michael was being considered for a consulting partnership. Her boss called it a branding dream. They wanted his name attached. She would have to sit across from him in pitch meetings. Her pride cracked. That night, she called. Voicemail. "Michael, it's me. Again. I know I don't have a right to ask, but I need to see you. One last time. Please. I'm not okay. I haven't been for a long time. I see now what I lost. And it's killing me." He didn't respond. Instead, he sent one text. "Meet me at the place where we first said, I love you. Saturday, 6 p.m. The setup for the final blow." Michael arrived early. The cliffside lookout in Laguna Beach. The ocean whispered below. The same bench they once carved initials into, long since eroded by salt and time. Allison arrived on time. She looked tired, like a candle burning from the inside. She sat beside him without a word. For a minute, neither of them spoke. Only the wind dared interrupt. "I still remember that night," she whispered. "You brought me here after that stupid diner fight. You said, 'I don't want perfect. I just want honest.'" Michael stared at the ocean. "You remember that." "I never forgot it," she said. "But I wasn't honest. I was weak. I let them fill my head with lies. I was selfish. And now," her voice broke, "now I wake up and wish I'd done everything different." Michael turned, finally looking at her. "Do you love me?" She nodded, tearful. More than I ever did. More than I deserved to. He leaned closer. Then tell me everything. What? Tell me. Every name. Every betrayal. Every lie. Say it all. Right now. She trembled. Michael, say it, he said. Calm. Stern. And she did. One by one, she listed names. Friends. Neighbors. People they both knew. She confessed to using his insecurities against him, to letting her friends manipulate her, to sleeping with Ethan while Michael was out of town for a funeral. And when she finished, Michael stood. Thank you. That's all I needed. Her eyes widened. Wait, what? What does that mean? He looked down at her. It means I finally have peace. You gave me what I never had. The truth. You'll live with it. I won't. Then, the final blow. I'm getting married, he said. She gasped. What? He pulled out his phone, opened a photo of him and Rebecca, a strong, fiercely kind woman he had met at the summit. The opposite of Allison in every way. The photo showed them smiling, her hand on his chest, a ring on her finger. Allison's lips quivered. You brought me here to tell me that. He nodded. You said you wanted to see me. You wanted closure. Well, here it is. Allison cried. Not sobbed. Cried in that broken, still way, like mourning something already buried. Michael walked away. The wind shifted as Michael walked away from the woman who once shattered him. Every step from that cliffside felt lighter, as if he was leaving behind the final weight tethering him to a version of himself he no longer recognized. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Closure wasn't in her tears. It was in his choice to never chase them again. Back in the city, his world was fuller than it had ever been. Filled with progress, not patchwork attempts to salvage the past. He returned to his office and closed the file labeled The Restoration Project. He didn't delete it. He didn't need to. It wasn't for revenge anymore. It was for history, for remembering who he became after the fall. Life, it turned out, had more than just healing waiting for him. It had meaning. Rebecca, the woman who now stood beside him, wasn't just beautiful or supportive. She was real, fierce in her empathy, bold in her honesty, and never once making him feel like he had to earn love by suffering for it. They met at the summit, sure, but it wasn't coincidence. It was timing. She had seen his keynote, been in the crowd. Afterward, she walked up and said one thing. That didn't sound like a speech. It sounded like survival. I know the difference. She had her scars too. A broken engagement, a family estranged over money, and a firm belief in second chances, but only for those who proved they earned them. Their first few dates were cautious, not because of fear, but because of mutual respect. Neither rushed, neither overshared. They built from the ground up, brick by brick, truth by truth. Michael told her everything about Allison, not in graphic detail, but with clarity. He didn't hide. He didn't dramatize. He just told the truth. Rebecca listened, and then she said, You're not broken. You're refined. And if she let you go, that's on her. They grew fast, not out of need, but resonance. They shared mornings with slow coffee and newspaper crossword puzzles. Afternoons filming content for Rebecca's travel blog. Michael, once shy of cameras, now appeared regularly beside her in vlogs and interviews. They created stories, not just for followers, but for each other. On Sunday evenings, they walked the trails outside their loft and talked about everything: business, love, fear, future kids, old dreams. Nothing was off limits. And when Rebecca asked him once, Do you think she still watches your videos? Michael simply smiled. She probably watches everyone. Meanwhile, Allison unraveled, not in loud, public ways, but in the silence of being truly alone. The friends who had once fed her arrogance had grown up, or worse, moved on to new drama. Ethan had cut ties after his mistress gave birth. Her job became suffocating after Michael's firm took the spotlight. Her father no longer defended her choices. Her sister stopped responding to her 3 a.m. voice notes. And every time she opened Instagram, there he was, Michael, laughing on beaches, building a brand with Rebecca, cooking in his kitchen, dancing clumsily in the background while Rebecca narrated recipes. The comments were brutal. OMG, you two are perfect. This gives me hope. He looks so happy. And the worst of all, I want a man like that. She started sending messages again. Vague, poetic nonsense. Some birds never find home until the wind changes. That kind of thing. Michael never responded. He didn't even open them. But he knew when they came, because she always sent them after midnight. Every single time. Then came the final straw. Her best friend, the same one who once said, "You deserve better," and matched her with Ethan, messaged Michael. Again. But this time not with hate. With shame. "I was wrong. About everything. I told her to leave you. I said you weren't ambitious enough. But I see you now. You're a man we all underestimated. I don't expect forgiveness. But I had to say it." Michael didn't reply to her either. But he smiled. And then came the proposal. On a cliff just miles from where he once ended things with Allison, Michael stood with Rebecca, holding her hands under a setting sun. He didn't prepare a speech. He didn't kneel. He just said, "You're the calm after every storm. The peace I never thought I'd earn. Will you be my future?" Tears in her eyes, she nodded. Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. That moment went viral. Not because they posted it, but because a stranger nearby filmed it and tagged Rebecca unknowingly. The video spread like wildfire. Suddenly, they were more than a couple. They were a symbol of what happens when you choose peace over pain, growth over guilt, grace over revenge. Allison saw it. Of course she did. She even tried to comment. "Cherish him. He's rare." Rebecca blocked her. Months later, Michael and Rebecca got married in a quiet vineyard ceremony. 80 guests, candlelight, acoustic music, laughter echoing through the vines. No one from his past was invited. No traces of Allison. No family members who ever doubted his worth. Just people who saw him. After the reception, he stood outside the venue alone for a moment, sipping wine, looking at the stars. Claire approached from behind. "So, you finally won." He shook his head. "I didn't win. I escaped. That's better." She clinked glasses with him, to never needing closure again. They drank to it. 1 year later, Michael's company merged with a major tech firm. Rebecca's brand became one of the fastest growing travel media platforms on the West Coast. They adopted a dog together, a rescue named Leo. The guinea pigs thrived too. And Allison? She quietly sold her condo and moved back to her parents' town. No more posts. No more messages. She faded into the kind of obscurity that doesn't come from failure, but from consequence. Michael never wished her harm, but he never once missed her either. Because sometimes, the best revenge is never looking back.